Welcome to this explainer. We're going to jump right in today. I want you to imagine a tiny seedling, just starting to try and grow. Now, if it rushes to bloom right there on the surface, just to be seen, without taking the time to grow deep, hidden roots beneath the soil, well, it simply won't survive its very first storm. Today, we're exploring a really profound internal struggle that mirrors this exact metaphor. It's the deep psychological battle between having sincere intention and that all-too-human desire for social validation, specifically when it comes to doing good deeds and Islamic outreach.
So, I want you to ask yourself a deeply reflective question right off the bat. If absolutely no one knew you came today, would you still come? I mean, if there were no cameras around, no social media tags, no pats on the back from your friends, would you still do the work? This instantly hooks us right into the core conflict we're unpacking today. We're looking at the vast difference between doing good deeds for the applause of an audience versus cultivating true, deeply hidden sincerity.
Okay, let's dive into this. The Islamic concept for this kind of sincerity is called Ikhlas. And, as the source material points out, it's actually not just a fleeting feeling, it's a direct command. Drawing from Surah Az-Zumar, which explicitly instructs believers to worship with pure intention, we learn that sincerity is a deliberate act of will. It's a discipline. It's the absolute foundational standard for all worship. You don't just sit around and wait to feel sincere, you have to actively choose it.
But, there's this really subtle disease of the heart that tends to creep in. And that is performing for the audience instead of the one. Remember that seedling we talked about? Craving praise is exactly like that plant blooming way too quickly without those deep roots. Because when a person doing outreach starts performing for an audience, they've subtly introduced a partner into their worship. They're no longer doing it just for the creator, they are splitting that devotion with the creation.
And this brings us to the ultimate target state, which is captured perfectly in Surah Al-Insan. We feed you only for the sake of Allah. We want no reward from you, nor any thanks. I want you to look closely at the very end of that quote. Nor any thanks. The absolute goal of the believer is the ability to give, to serve, and to teach without expecting any acknowledgement whatsoever. Not an award, not likes on a post, not even a simple thank you. That is the absolute pinnacle of pure intention.
Part 1. The danger of praise.
In the Islamic tradition, showing off, which is known as riya, well, it isn't just a minor character flaw. It carries incredibly severe warnings about what happens when our ego hijacks our good deeds. Surah Al-Kahf lays down the Quranic definition of accepted action. It says, "Whoever hopes to meet his Lord, let him do righteous work and not associate anyone in the worship of his Lord." So the absolutely crucial point here is that the cure to this danger isn't to just pack up and stop doing the outreach. Actually, scratch that. It's more like you let the audience die in your heart. You continue the work, but you perform it only for the one who sees you when the cameras are completely off.
And this heedlessness is directly connected to showing off, as we clearly see in Surah Al-Ma'un. Woe to those who pray but are heedless, those who show off. A person who is constantly craving recognition is actually spiritually absent from the good deed they're doing. Instead of being fully present in the moment, their mind is basically scanning the room for validation, checking to see exactly who is watching and who is impressed.
So, that brings us to one of the most severe warnings in the entire prophetic tradition. Sahih Muslim records that the first to be judged will be a man martyred in battle, a scholar who taught, and a generous man. But because they performed their deeds specifically to be seen by people, they will be the first fuel of the fire. Just take a second and really think about that. Doing outreach purely for recognition doesn't just mean you lose your reward, it actively harms the doer. The action itself becomes a massive burden.
And this brilliantly illustrates the famous lesson from Sahih al-Bukhari. Actions are judged entirely by intentions. If you compare the humble volunteer with a pure heart sitting at an unattended table to a celebrated speaker with a mixed heart standing before a massive crowd, well, in the ultimate scale, it's not the eloquence or the crowd size that actually matters. The humble volunteer completely outranks the celebrated speaker purely because of their intention.
Part 2. Steps to true sincerity.
Building this kind of pure intention is deeply comforting, vital work. It's kind of like gently tending a garden, deliberately cultivating the soil so that your actions grow those deep, hidden roots we talked about earlier. Drawing on 25 years of outreach experience, the source material breaks down the cure into 7 practical steps, falling into the 3 broad pillars: pre-session rituals, private actions, and accountability. These are the practical tools you need to ruthlessly audit and purify your own intentions on a daily basis.
Let's move to the specific steps and see how this all builds together. Step 1 is a pre-session ritual. Before stepping out, perform 2 raka'ats of prayer with the explicit intention of seeking sincerity. Make this non-negotiable. Step 2 is active maintenance. When you feel that familiar tug, that craving for praise, pause and renew your intention internally. Treat sincerity as a discipline. You got to renew it the exact same way you would renew your physical purification, your wudu, right after it breaks.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how we build this muscle through private action. Practice anonymous outreach. Give away a Quran without ever attaching your name to it. Make a prayer for someone in totally secret. Do the heavy, painfully boring administrative work that absolutely no one will ever know you did or ever thank you for. By consistently engaging in actions where applause is literally impossible, you actively strengthen your sincerity over time. Which naturally leads us right into step 4. Deliberately avoid posting every single activity on social media. In our hyper-connected digital world, honestly, this might actually be the hardest step. But it is absolutely vital to keep some of your deeds entirely between you and your creator, completely safe and protected from the gaze of others. For step 5, the source material highly recommends a deep dive into classical wisdom. Specifically, studying Imam al-Ghazali's chapter on showing off in his masterwork, the Ihya Ulum al-Din. Reading even just a little bit of this comprehensive text weekly is the ultimate tool. It will dramatically sharpen your self-awareness and help you diagnose the super subtle symptoms of this spiritual disease.
Finally, steps 6 and 7 anchor us in accountability. You need to find a trusted friend, a truly honest accountability partner who will ask you the hard questions about your intentions, not just praise your results. Someone who can ask, "Hey, why did you post that?" without you getting all defensive. And then step 7. And every single session with istighfar, sincerely asking forgiveness for any tiny moments where your heart might have slipped towards showing off during your work.
As we wrap up this explainer, I really want to leave you with this powerful, provocative thought. Every deed that remains private is a deed that cannot be corrupted. Think about the unseen roots of your own actions. In a world utterly obsessed with visibility and being seen, maybe our greatest, most impactful achievements are the ones no one else will ever know about. So, how are you protecting your hidden deeds today? Thanks for diving into this with me, and keep cultivating those deep roots.